All right, I'll bring this meeting to order at 6:02 PM. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Declare quorum, disclose any conflict of interest. Adjustments to the agenda, public to speak on non-agenda items. If you are Rangeley North.
Rangeley West, you're Rangeley West.
No, you're not.
Well, what, how do we add it?
It says revision to Johnson Farm subdivision and Rangeley North subdivision.
Yeah, but we're Rangeley West.
Yeah, so two different things.
Right. I'm Rangeley West. When I'm coming with the
I
four
know,
lots.
that's what I was confused about.
So,
I'm the first time you were here,
Well,
right?
you can add it to the agenda they have before, plenty of times.
yeah, so we have a Rangeley West and a Rangeley North tonight.
Technically, so it's a revision to Rangeley North subdivision, but it's for a different applicant. That makes sense. It's for an owner of one of the lots within the subdivision.
And I'm here just for Rangeley West, four lots, so we, that what we
Yeah,
changed it.
so the map and lot number is correct on there for just follow.
It's fine, it's new business, so. Review minutes, November 22, 2023.
Hold on a minute, you're gonna go back to
Oh, public.
adjustment to agenda. Are we gonna adjust the agenda and put Rangeley West on there, or are we?
Yeah, we can hear it. We can hear it. So let's add Rangeley West.
They'll be under continuing business.
Review of minutes, November 22nd, 2023, regular meeting. I need a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Correspondence.
You have a new letter from Chick Hill Pollution regarding the workforce housing. This is the one you received in.
Okay, new business. Subdivision amendment, Rangeley North.
All right, that's us. Confusing, I know. So would you like us to start with a little presentation? as far as what's happening? I had an easel, it broke. I'd love to. Mine, one of the little older things fell off. Thank you. Time to buy a new one.
Alrighty.
Yeah, Bob will buy me. Don't you worry. Just have to strong arm it a little bit. So I'm Esther Vizier from Mainland Development, and we're here tonight. So the applicant is 343 LLC, and Ron Lewis is the owner of that entity. So a little bit about our project location. So we're this lot, which was within originally the Johnson Farm subdivision. So it's lot 5 of Johnson Farm subdivision, which then got incorporated into Rangeley North subdivision because the subdivisions were adjacent to each other. So as far as the big development, we're right here, and in relation to everything else, you guys probably all know where it is, but off of Loon Lake Road, just past the airport, so. We're lot 5, it's about 9.75 acres. And the address is 12 Taylor Farm Road. So, the existing lot contains, one house, and there used to be a barn there, it burned down last winter, actually. So, lot 5 does have access off of Taylor Farm Road, and, the driveway is actually the old portion of Taylor Farm Road. Right now, this whole upper portion of the lot is just forested, and Johnson Road or Johnson Lane ends kind of right before you get to the lot. There is one forested buffer that's associated with the Johnson Farm subdivision that's existing on the lot, and that hasn't been cut. It's in place, and that's proposed to remain. So what the applicant's proposing to do here is to split their parcel into 4 lots. So they retain lot 5-4, or what we show as 5-4 with the house, the old pad where the barn was, and their driveway access as it is. And then they're proposing 3 additional lots. So 2 lots with access off of Johnson Lane, and then the 3rd lot with access, a shared driveway access. So we were able to find passing soils for septics. We're planning on having private wells, just like the rest of the houses in the development. It's a pretty small project, as far as what we're looking at for just this. The applicant is planning on this probably being mostly a family subdivision, so lots going probably to his kids. They may sell 1 or 2 of them. One of the other sort of notes, we had to go to the main DEP for this, so we had to go through a site location and development amendment application, because again, it's part of the bigger project. So we obtained that permit this past fall, and there's a copy of that in the application booklets that you all have. Part of that application and part of the town's application, we did have to address stormwater and phosphorus treatment. So again, because we were part of an existing subdivision, there's already a phosphorus and stormwater management plan. Essentially, we started with like 0 phosphorus export for this because it had all been used up by the previous projects. So we have forested stormwater buffers, and we're limiting the size of development on all 3 lots. There's also a rain garden proposed on lot 5-3. And then we're proposing some mitigation in order to meet our budget of 0. So he's gonna be paving a portion of the driveway, and then where the barn used to be, that pad gets removed. So mitigating some phosphorus that way. That's pretty much the project, so pretty straightforward. We did send out letters to all of the different like town departments that it says to in the ordinance. I think we only heard back from the school. So didn't hear back from anybody else, but it's, 3 new lots, so not a huge impact on services. But here for any questions, anybody has any?
So with the phosphorus calculations you've met, with the new phosphorus calculations that they just changed, you've met what you need.
Yes.
And that
yeah.
hot top is gonna emit it, that's gonna take a lot of it.
Right, yeah, when you change from they say gravel exports more than
Yep.
paved surface.
Yep. The paved surface emits it once and then it's cleaned up after.
Yeah,
So you're asking us for approval?
if the board would grant that, we'd love an approval,
We need
but
an application.
wasn't sure what your process might look like.
We have an application. Have you submitted an application?
Yes, yeah, so I think the application form is in the first section.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be like right behind the cover page.
Yeah, it's right here.
that table of contents.
In the book,
And right in the booklet.
that's fancy. So we're gonna have to look at this.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in
Yeah.
there. I mean, I went through, kind of through everything.
Yeah.
But totally understand if you
Yeah, no,
need more time.
We should get letters from
you said you reached out to those.
Yeah,
fire
we sent them
places,
to everybody, back in late October,
But
early
you only
November.
received one from the school,
Received one from the school, but not from anybody else.
so we will need those letters.
Yeah,
Want to do a public hearing on
I think we should.
it? So, I don't really see an issue with it, but set a public hearing, gives us time to get the letters from fire, please anyways.
I mean, you're in a subdivision, there's how many lots up there now? 100
yeah, there's a lot.
a lot,
Yeah.
so the addition of 3 more probably isn't the end of the world. So, I just,
We need to reach out to a few of the abutters too.
yeah, I just wanna do my homework before somebody starts screaming at us.
Oh, I understand that.
If you get the phosphorus, all of that squared away.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things is, you know, we have the DEP approval, so
Yeah.
they've been through everything. As a little bit of like reassurance for you
Well,
guys.
that's, you've already done your
Stormwater,
homework, so.
phosphorus, all of that, so.
Yep, so we'll do our homework, and if you could provide us with those letters.
Yeah.
Before the next meeting.
What's the date of your next meeting?
So,
Technically, it's the 27th, but
Yeah.
it's probably gonna get,
no, we're gonna move that to the 10th of January. So I'm gonna, so we're gonna request those letters and. With it? Yeah. You guys all have a chance to look at that application. Good. All right. I need a motion that the application is complete. Second,
Second.
all in favor? And then we'll set up. I'm gonna have another public hearing on that same night. Which is a lot. Can we do 2 public hearings in one night? Just gonna be a long night. All right, so we'll set the public hearing for January 10th,
6 P.M.
6 p.m.
You gonna send letters to the butters?
Yes,
And there's a butters list in there as well, so.
yeah, I need a motion to send letters to the butters. Second,
Second.
all in favor? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
We just schedule a time for the public hearing.
It's 6:30.
Yeah, let's set this one at 6. Yeah, so we have to wait.
We're gonna schedule that public hearing for 6:30.
Okay.
6.
We have
one at
6. I have one at 6.
I got you. All right, so 6 p.m., I'm sorry. Getting ahead of ourselves tonight. I don't know that we've been this discombobulated yet.
So to the chair, under chapter 33.3.1. What you're approving, right now you're tabling to read the information. The next time you meet, you're meeting to approve the preliminary plan, which is what they have. You have to wait for the public hearing until you have the final plan in place. When the final plan is presented, that's when you hold the public hearing. Again, according to 33.3.1. It's very well outlined in that area. So what you're looking for is to vote on the preliminary plan, not the final plan. It's a preliminary
We're
plan.
talking about workforce housing right now.
All subdivisions.
That's a final plan, is it not?
We'd love it to be. I don't anticipate it changing.
Then you can vote that way if you want.
So I'm gonna ask a question.
Yeah.
The night's already
Oh, it's
like
okay.
a volley up, right? So the building laws, you have building envelopes on those, I
Yeah.
assume. And that's the
Exactly.
section that is not shaded at all.
Right, well, so the building envelope is the kind of crosshatch, and then the like diamond hatch is buffer area.
Yeah, phosphorus.
Yeah. So buffer, this is also a buffer, that's the existing buffer from Johnson Farm. On this lot, they have some options for where they build. Because they don't have a buffer, but in all cases, the size of like the clearing or the house and lawn is limited because of phosphorus.
Is there any square footage restrictions in that subdivision, minimum or maximum?
So they're gonna have square footage restrictions, just because of our phosphorus plan. And I believe that Johnson Farm, most of the lots that are there, they all have a restricted building envelope as well. I wanna say it was, the 20,000 square feet, but essentially they're all restricted to development kind of in those envelopes. This was the one lot, well, one of two lots, I should say, that didn't have a restriction on it. So,
So two of the lots are gonna have restrictions and two are not, correct?
So
The existing one.
all of these have restrictions, only these two will have buffers. And then this is just the existing
Which
development
doesn't
that's
have a
there.
restriction.
Doesn't have a restriction, but they would have to amend the phosphorus plan if they wanted to do more.
Okay.
So Brett, you're saying that that's preliminary plan, and we can't approve.
You can approve the preliminary plan, and once that is approved, and you've had opportunities to read it.
Right.
And we come back and you can go ahead and have the final, or the public hearing before you then approve the final plan.
So we can go back and we can approve that as a preliminary plan.
Yes,
And then we'll set, we have a date set for the public hearing,
yes.
and then we'll do
Then,
final
then once
approval.
the final plan is done, the public hearing has been held.
Final plan is done and the public
Yes.
hearing. Right. I need a motion to accept those preliminary plans.
I make a motion to accept the preliminary plans.
Second. All in favor? Sorry about that.
That's okay, you're working out your process.
It changes, I can
Yeah.
tell you. It's not always the same, so. New chapter 38, there's a lot of
Yeah.
learning right now. We apologize for that, but no, it looks good. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the public hearing will be scheduled for January 10th at 6 p.m. I have motions on that, right? Marty, would you like us to redo that?
Yeah, I'll take the motion.
Right, I need a motion to reschedule or to schedule the public hearing for January 10th at 6 p.m. Wes,
Second.
make it easy. All in favor? Okay. Continuing business. Rangeley Workforce Housing.
Take their pen first.
Yeah, I want to take pen first.
I'm sorry?
I take their pen first.
Yeah, we could squeeze them in.
Yeah. You're supposed to bring us stuff, Penny, right?
What's that?
You're supposed to bring us stuff.
What's that?
I don't know, plan for Ramsey West, are you not?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
The plan?
All right.
The original,
Yeah, this is the one signed. What do you mean original plan?
when you came up for last time, we wanted to see if there's any stipulations from the original plan of, you
The
know,
original approval?
correct.
That was supposed to be taken care of by Breck.
Yeah, and there were no stipulations in the original approval.
Okay.
Try to walk through this thing here. This is,
How are you gonna put that on the easel?
I'm not gonna give it to you. Again, what we had here was, I can't remember the exact number of acres, the
114.
20, yep, just about right. There's 4 lots, 114 acres. There's only 4, there's only 4 sites, 4 building sites.
The driveway, yeah, because you got 2 down by the driveway, right?
What's that?
You got 2 down by the driveway, these 2.
This one?
Yeah, this one here comes off from, this one here comes off from Route 17, right here. Yeah, that, it has land down on 17. That's going right up there. There's a big rock, of course, that's going to be- And then this other one's, yeah, that one's,
This already has.
yeah, that's already got the road frontage right here.
Going up the hill.
Yeah. That is a piece that goes to this lot 17 to be able to get enough frontage. To make sure that the frontage amount. No, no,
Where's your access? Ken?
which one? Right here. Off Route 17. No, that's not a road, that's just a, it's nothing, it's actually gonna be buffer.
So these are the lots.
Yeah. That one down there, the 17, this is here off of the hill going up to the-
Correct, this would be approval of preliminary.
Have to notify others.
Like that.
What's that?
This is the other one? This is the big one, right?
Yeah, 83 acres this one is.
And this one.
Yeah.
1, 2, 4.
Yep. Yeah, this is one that's down on across the Oxford, that corner.
Just going for that.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the road frontage for this big one?
Right there on the original color picture.
Coming up the hill?
Right, yeah.
that one.
Yeah. That one's got road frontage. So that one was screwed up as the 17. How much is that? How much is that?
Hundred and 20 feet, roughly
20 feet to an inch, right?
It says 120 feet to an inch. So that half of the road frontage?
What's that? Yes, that's what we're over here. Though. Between that and this. building.
You don't have it here?
A quarter of the
Uh,
scale.
close- we're close to 100 feet right
A
there.
quarter of the scale.
Yeah, it's less, this is less than 1.1.
No, 110 roughly.
Yeah, so there's 100 feet on that one.
And this one covers the old entrance. Is that what it is?
No, so what he's saying is they did it like this because they don't think they have road frontage here, so they give them road frontage on this road frontage, so you take the total calculation. And now you get over your big road frontage.
Right.
So that one is 100 feet.
Oh, it's a scale of this.
Yeah, it's pretty close. There you go.
Um,
And the road frontage requirement is what?
it's 100.
Each lawn.
In that lot.
I mean, what you're showing us scales out.
Yeah, there's
We're
that.
not supposed to scale.
Scale, 1 inch is 120 feet. We can approve the preliminary plan. 7 days. Verify that.
Yeah, I can road front. Oh, we have that for- I'll check.
We don't have an application.
What?
You have the
You do
other-
have the application.
Yeah, we turned it in. This is my third meeting.
Yeah, we have that.
We turned it first week in November.
Yes, we just did that in the prior meeting.
So the question is this combining the two different road frontages? Way to do it. Don't know if it specifies. Doesn't seem right to me.
They take it off, well, we thought it'd be 4 different lots, but.
I don't think there's a problem with the other 3 lots. I don't know. 17 is-
Get this number right here, Kenny?
Yeah, I can.
See what we're talking about, Jake, on that?
Who's gonna, you guys are never, right?
Or just.
There
we go.
Hmm?
Thank you.
I just.
We need 5.
Addition.
That sounds like in the fund.
Yeah.
is that on the agenda?
Where?
No, this is the old one. It was
0.85
an
times
addition.
120.
Not the
Yes, this is the.
final. Yeah, this is the adjustment.
So no decision today, just present.
No, 120.
Presented last.
120.
There.
Not the past meeting.
102 feet.
Question.
There it is.
Clarify that though.
Yep, we'll do.
That
Jake's got running your votes.
That's why they moved it over here.
Yeah, it doesn't say specifically.
So they don't, it scales out all this way.
I don't know, that's what he wants.
I'll get Pete to clarify it. I think it was in the application, I'm not sure. You guys had it at first meeting in
Do you have a
November.
copy of that application, Rick? I had this in my hand earlier tonight. Probably old business. And it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't bother. We've done the fact finding. We haven't done the fact finding.
He accepted the application and he requested information.
That's all they did.
Right.
And I heard that this was gonna be revisited.
So can we approve this tonight? With the condition?
Well,
I mean,
we requested
Would-
information. Is this, is what they're doing kosher? That's 95
We
feet
need-
ceiling.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't know what this means.
No, we don't. So we need, if we do approve the finding of facts, it needs to have a condition that this meets that. 100.
Or this, what they're trying to do with
The
cutting
combined,
this
Well, the
strip.
combined meets 100 feet. Right. Has to be.
We want to print out the findings of facts.
Yeah, because if we do the finding of fact, right, and we put it in as a
You can put
condition.
it as a condition.
That he has to verify that,
Yep.
or that we have to verify that splitting those two road frontages is kosher, then we're good, he can move on, right?
Yep.
I don't wanna
You can
see,
put a
it.
time
I
limit.
like you. This is the third time you've been here for this, right? I don't wanna waste your time anymore.
know.
So well, you can put time limits as well, must be done within 30 days or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you can verify that tomorrow.
Yeah, I can verify it tomorrow, I can verify it till I get home.
But it's a one measurement that they should have put in, it's not there, you know what I mean? Like if they'd have said this was X and that was X, then. And it does scale out, Kenny, to 102 feet. But
There's definitely over, I'll find out what the exact measurement is between the two different roads.
so we'll do finding of fact, approve it. If he comes in with that, you can write. And then we'll just have to notify them.
Notify the abutters.
We will get through this night. It's gonna be a 17-minute meeting. though.
Waiting for
Something.
So, what's the rest of the process going to be?
So if we do a finding of fact, we put a condition on it that you have to verify that 100-foot road. Okay? If it's not 100 feet, then we have to verify that you can split the road frontage between two roads. Okay? If we verify that, that's a
what it is,
condition.
150 feet. Yeah, in residential.
150 feet.
Yeah, that's why it's like that.
Yeah, not 100.
So now that we know that, now we have to verify that we can split the road frontage. Can we? Do we know?
What did we do with the Route 17 overlay when we created that?
Yes, that was a state issue. The state did that.
Why?
They mandated that.
The Route 17 overlay?
Yeah,
We
what you
created
can
that as
do,
a board.
what you can do is you can ask for a variance for that, and then go to the zoning board of appeals.
So that would fall under the Route 17 overlay that the board created in order for people to
That,
develop accessory structures across the street from
Yeah,
Route 17,
right.
across the street from Shore Road. So what is the road frontage on the Route 17 overlay? Because this, I would think, apply.
so I don't know the completeness of that, I know it's variable. I know that not all road frontages over there are two code. It's the same thing with Main Street here. So we had an issue on Main Street, we found out with the state, when the state took land from eminent domain, that all the frontages were different, which is why there's 5 feet to.
The minimum road
to the-
frontage on Route 17 overlay is 100 feet. So if he has 100 feet of road frontage there, I think we could scrap that whole cutting into
Both
Rangeley
frontage.
West. And it would work.
And where do we find out if it's in the overlay? Do you remember?
It is. It is.
Yeah, but can you also check on that other one? He put that in there.
We can check that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What's the rest of the process for me? I'm gonna get that, I'll get that verified on the, on it's a note from Pete Alfonso. The engineer that did on the survey, one of the vote. Then where are we in the process?
If everything is good to go at that point, just notify the others, correct? Or don't find a fact it could be approved as is.
You want to do a public hearing on it?
I think you guys, so if you don't have to. No.
I want to notify the butters.
So if you, we can approve it tonight.
We gotta give them an opportunity to speak.
So can we approve it on two conditions? So. And no, even if they come to speak with us, you can still. Yep. So just. Let's accept the other piece. Yeah, we must have. We've been-
Yeah, to do this.
Directly following.
No, we would do this. We would do this. Marty, is he correct?
Double checking to
There's a question.
amendments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris.
Hey, sorry, I just want to not have an issue for Kenny down the road is, if you look on page 17 of the new 38, it shows 338 6.5.9. It talks about the overlay and the split. And it discusses without a principal dwelling unit on that, of what that applicability of that overlay zone is. So, not that I'm an expert at all about this, but I'm thinking probably gonna have to go to ZBA in order to get the 102, so might make sense to run that contemporaneously while during the application, at least to cover yourself, and maybe the attorney will come back and see something different, but it spells it out pretty clearly. I think it's a great idea to try to apply it, but I don't think it will pass the straight face test on that. That could cost Kenny a couple months, so it might make sense to at least go ZBA and get it covered there so that you can keep going with the app.
Or if you have 150 feet,
Then you're good.
for both of them, it doesn't matter.
We won't matter.
We definitely have 150 feet.
Right,
but I'll
so
get
we
the
just
numbers.
have, but we have to verify if we can use both road frontage.
Okay.
to Give you your 150 feet.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Lee, I just want to mention that, so
Yeah,
lose a couple
no,
months,
hey,
so.
tonight's the night, Chris. Tonight's the night. All right, I want to do the finding of facts.
Yes.
I want to notify the abutters, I want to schedule a public hearing, and I want to give Kenny.
An amendment requires a public hearing. An amendment should not require a public hearing, only an application to start to start as a. If we're reading.
So it would be notification of the abutters only.
And then what if there's a problem with the abutters? They come to you and then there's no.
Then it would go to zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
Perfect. Those guys need something to do.
Sorry, Ryan.
All right, are we ready? I have no applicant, I have no nothing.
Got my application.
All right. Number one, standing, the applicant has standing to present this application under the executive agreement. That's my motion. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Authority, the planning board has the authority to consider this request for a new subdivision as required by chapter 33 of the Ringsley Code as well as title 30, section 4403. That's my motion.
Maybe an amendment, solution.
It's
It
not
says,
new.
it says request for a new subdivision, it's not a new subdivision.
All right, number two, the authority. The planning board has the authority to consider this request for an amendment. I don't even know if it's in chapter 33 of section 4. No. I'm sorry, Kenny, I don't know how we're gonna do this because it's not, nothing.
Yeah, but if you're gonna table, I wanna know what I gotta do. It's simple, I think.
Well, it would be much simpler if your set of plans had numbers on it.
I
so
agree,
we
I
could
agree.
verify, because that would take care of that. And then we wouldn't have to. This is something happened in the due diligence on our end, obviously, so.
Yeah, I just wanna know what I gotta do so we can get it done, that's all. We got a purchase and sale agreement on that big lot that I don't wanna let it slip away. We've had it since
Well,
early November.
I mean, I
don't wanna
can't-
lose it.
I mean, if you're within the codes, which says, if you're within that 150 feet, you're safe.
Within 150 feet, and can we use the frontage from 2 different roads to create a road frontage?
Those are the only two big questions. Other than that,
There are no questions.
That has never come in front of the board. We have never taken road frontage from 2 different roads to create enough road frontage.
And I don't know the answer to that right now.
That's gonna be
No. Never has that come in front of us, so I don't know how to handle that. That needs to be checked with legal. I'm leaning no.
So,
well, the worst part of all of it is we don't have a meeting at the end of the month, so everybody's gotta wait until January 10th. Just delays everything.
It's not our concern.
So I'm gonna table the Ramsey West, which isn't on the agenda. I'm sorry, Kenny, but we're gonna have to table that till January 10th.
Yeah, I just wanna know clearly what I have to do and I'll get it done.
We need verification of that road frontage, and then we need to make sure in our code that we can split that road
Okay,
frontage.
yep, which I know you can, but I don't. But anyway, we'll get it.
I
You
personally,
guys can get the verification on it, I'll get
Yeah.
it for the tours.
I can tell you that's probably not in chapter 30. So
could you tell me exactly how you want that to read in the record, please?
I just,
Or, like, that's the pending verification of road frontage.
so we'll table it till January 10th, 2024, pending verification of 150 feet of road frontage or the required road frontage for that subdivision, and the conditions of that road frontage, whether it can be split or has to be one cohesive piece. Sorry, Marty, that's all I got for you.
So do we have to have a public hearing?
No,
No, okay.
Yep, okay. So we should be good then. I'll get that for us. I'll get them.
Yeah, it just
Plans
need
drawn
those
up.
measurements. We just need those measurements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing business, Rangeley Workforce Housing, map 8 lot 75. Consideration of land use permit to begin project planning. I move this, so people in the audience can see, or is this good, or how do you want it?
Yeah.
You guys can, or maybe move it up there?
Can you guys see it?
Try this.
I can now.
That help? Got myself in, can't get out. About behind it. A little bit maybe.
Like me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Rick Light with Light Environmental Design. And I'm at here with Rangeley Workforce Housing. So, I'm assuming I'm gonna look to Breck here in a minute, but I think at our first meeting, we met a month and a half ago, I think it was. We reviewed the project overall, so I won't spend time going over the project, but I think we sort of left in that he would come back, you do some homework, we look at the ordinances and talk to Breck and sort of understand some of the zoning questions we had about, because this, again, this is a somewhat unique in terms of, it's a subdivision, but it's one big lot, so it's a condominium, and the land is owned in common. And then when we, remember, this is a bit of background, we start applying the zoning ordinance and the lot standards, it's a round peg square hole type of thing, so. And we talked to Breck and Carl about it, and so we're trying to get an understanding of how to apply some of those ordinance requirements and see what the board feels about it, so we know that we're going in the right direction. And the key questions, and if I miss some, I'll maybe look at Breck to chime in. One was, again, the property is 5.38 acres, it's split by the village and then the residential zone pretty much down the middle. It's about a 60 in terms of area, 30 to 70 in terms of area, and how we apply that towards the overall density. What we've done is we've taken an aggregate of the two zones, 10,000 square feet per unit on the village, 20,000 on the residential, deducted roads, which the ordinance requires you deduct the roads under density. We don't, it also requires you deduct wetlands, and your wetlands are defined as the 10-acre wetlands, and these aren't 10 acres. So we deducted the roads, and we came up with the table that's in your application that shows that the site can support a total of 14, we'll call them buildings or lots. The ordinance is written in the term lots, and that's part of the crux we're in. It doesn't use the term units, dwelling units per se, it says lots. But this is all one lot, so it's, you know, what do we do? And then the ordinance also says that you can have, that a duplex counts for the same as a single family. So if every one of these units for 14 was a duplex, you could theoretically have 28 units on this lot. What we're proposing are 8 single family, 2-story with 2-bedroom, and, you know, modest size, starting to do workforce housing, and then 6 duplexes, each, you know, single, like studio style, each 2-story, but 1 on each level. So total of 20 units, even though it allows 28, because we, you know, just can't fit them all in. So that's one of the questions we're looking at from a, you know, zoning perspective, and sort of getting some input on from board and from codes. The second was the lot area question about, again, the ordinance looks at each of these as lots, but again, there's only one lot line around the property. There are no internal lot lines. There are no internal right-of-way lines in a condo, because it's all commonly held, it's limited common land. The owners would own, if you're selling them, they own the inside of the unit or the wall. So if you take each unit and say, theoretically, an imaginary line is here, this is a lot, how does it work? Well, the dimensional requirements, I think it's, was it 38? And I did get caught up on the new ordinance referencing our application, the change to the new ordinance. Some of I think some of the references are different, but the language is the same. But I think it's 38.67 says that more than one unit on a lot, you got to meet dimensional requirements for each unit. Makes sense. So here, each of these units, we can easily meet the frontage requirement of 25 feet. We can easily meet the rear, every unit meets the rear setback with a lot to spare. And then you say, well, what about side yard setbacks? If you did an imaginary line between each unit, does each unit have the appropriate side setback, which I believe is 20 feet, thank you. So you would need 40 feet between every unit to have an imaginary line, if it's a lot line, at least 40. And so if that's the case, then not, the way the lots are laid out, or the units, a lot of them can meet the 40 by easily. There are a couple that would have to be tweaked, but we could make, if that's gonna be applied that way, we can make the plan work and meet the side yard setback, not a problem. It's just tweaking a couple of units, you know, one a few feet one way or the other. They're all either exceed it or they're very, very close. And then the issue was, we talked to Breck and Carl about this, was frontage. Well, how do you apply frontage when you have one lot, which is actually it's legally non-conforming? It only had, the village district is 100, and I'm sorry, residential is 150. So in the village district, it's 100 feet of frontage minimum. The 5 acre lot has 80 feet. It's a lot of record, non-conforming. But if you look at each unit saying, well, each unit needs to have frontage of 100 feet in the village and 150 in the residential, and how do you measure that? Because they're all on one lot. So what we talked to Carl and Breck about was, what if we aggregate all the frontage along the edge of the road, not including the inside, there's no units. If you average the frontage in the village district on each side of the road, you average the outside frontage along this line here and divide by the number of units in each district and apply the ordinance provision that says you can move this line 50 feet when you're split by a lot. But to crunch the numbers, I think the numbers do work out that you can actually have the average, you can meet the average frontage for every lot. So when you look at a lot, one lot might not have 150 feet, but on the whole, in the project, there's enough frontage on an average basis to meet the requirements for frontage, because how else would you apply the frontage, since we don't have frontage in your ordinance is defined by the line between two sidelines. You don't have side lot lines. Now, in a corner lot, it's, you know, it defines it within the definitions. So I guess we're looking for some guidance on that. I mean, I think if you sort of, the problem is sort of, I see, is reading the ordinance literally when it talks about lots, and we're talking about condominium. And this is not the first time that we've seen this come up, because it's a condominium, you know, when it's single one lot, things are a little bit different, like the whole idea of right of ways. There is no right of way. There's a road which would be held in common as a private road. What we're hoping to have is some easements on here. If sewer would take over, if the sewer department were to take over the sewer, we'll have an easement over the roadway. And if Rangeley Water District, we're talking with, we'd like to have that to be public, otherwise it'd be private, but if it's public, we have easements, but there's no right of way. So those are, you see, it's kind of funky because it's not, it doesn't fit the usual way you look at a subdivision. I think like the other, those were the, I think the key items there. I think we clarified that there's no question in the ordinance that a single family and a duplex count as the same. So those numbers work out in terms of the density. Were there any other, the waivers we asked for, and I just want to review those again, because I know the board has to at some point take action on that. Let me just, they're in your ordinance or in your application. I mean, I think first or second page, but the two waivers that we sought, unless there are others that the board sees for this discussion that are going to be required. One is parking. The two spaces per unit is the ordinance standard. And what we're asking for is that each single unit, we have driveways that support 2 cars or 40-foot drives. You can get 2 cars back to back, no need for variance. On the duplexes, these are going to be small 500, 600 square foot units, studio style, trying to make this an affordable, you know, workforce housing. We'd figure there'd be 1 car per unit. You're not going to typically have 2 cars per unit. We're saying rather than having 2 cars per unit, which would be 4 for each duplex, how about 1.5? And we're not just making that up. From some of our work with senior living and other projects, we find that that's a reasonable number. You know, so you have room for a visitor, people come, you have an extra space, that kind of thing. But to have 2 per unit on a single unit, it's excessive. So we would ask, and it helps to reduce the impervious area, helps to make the project flow better, and reduce so much pavement around all the units. And so it actually has an environmental advantage in looking at phosphorus and all that. So one waiver is for the duplexes to have, you know, the waive to 1.5 unit per space per unit, excuse me. The second one, second waiver was for, I'm sorry, the road width. We're proposing the main road to be the 20-foot standard for your local road standards and your road or road street construction ordinance on the main road. This is gonna be a one-way loop. And so to have 20 feet on a one-way loop, pretty excessive. It's adding, again, impervious area to a watershed, into the lake watershed. No need. So we suggested 18 feet, which is still very generous and probably speaks in this town. Like, you can take either easily all day long, 18 feet, and they're two-way. So we're saying 18 feet, love to go down to 16 feet. My understanding from Greg is the fire chief has agreed with that. So at least from the standpoint of his endorsement. So 20-foot road and then narrow down to 18-foot, one way around the loop and then two-way in here. So that's the waiver, that's the second waiver. So those are the two formal waivers we've asked for. And then sort of like have a discussion on how to sort out these other questions. Did I miss any of those high points? Correct, are those the key, I think the key provisions? Yeah. Okay.
And then just on the plans, we've got the sewer going towards Allen Street rather than going towards Loon Lake.
Yes, thanks for reminding. So in our discussions, Brett heard back from the sewer district, we had proposed bringing, this is all gravity sewer, works quite nicely. Coming down in the nearest manhole is about 100 feet from the intersection. And as you probably all know, but I do that on Cross Street, the sewer splits this way and this way to the east and west. And we chose to go towards Loon Lake Road because the way the grades work in inverts. Sewer district would prefer that we go towards Allen because it takes a lesser route to get to the pump station. So we can make that, we're gonna look at the inverts, I'm sure we can make that work and make that as a change. Still waiting for technical comments on the water line layout from Al Clinch and for the water district, but we do have a serviceability letter in the package initially on that they can service that. Was there another technical change or was that, I think that was.
Grease. The grease, right,
Grease traps.
right, grease traps.
So the district wants grease traps on each house.
We prefer one unit collection for the whole system.
The whole
That
system.
would be better, because if you put the individual ones, you run into the same problem we have in the restaurants in town.
Yeah.
They need to be cleaned monthly.
Yeah.
And they don't get cleaned, and then they defeat the purpose of even having them.
So one grease trap, so we'd have to put the grease trap towards the.
Yep.
It's not to talk, that's how they want to do that, because you have to base the grease trap on a certain flow rate. So with an 8-inch line, you'd be into a high flow
Well, you
rate.
project it off number of bedrooms per unit,
Yeah,
which would give you your daily flow through there.
yeah,
And you just have to put another chamber in prior to a manhole
yeah,
for a collection point.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, based on what you just stated,
Yeah.
which is wise, because no matter how you go up a cross street, it's pretty flat. There's
Yeah.
Pitch requirements on cross streets, so you're gonna put a large amount of flow. And then it's
Yeah.
gonna, and then it's gonna flatten out. So you're gonna have quite a bit of sedimentation that's gonna affect on
Right.
cross street from whatever this development is.
right. So we would probably be looking, we've got a manhole, I think, somewhere here, it's on the engineering plans. Put it at that manhole, we'll have to just look at the sizing requirements, make sure we're all on the same page and we've done that with pump stations as well in the past, so we've got a tank in addition to the pump station chamber, so.
And some sort of written contingency on its maintenance.
And the way this would be set up is an HOA, or, condo association, HOA association. Internally, roads, lawns, woods, it's all private, it's part of the association. There's what they call limited common and common areas that are sort of like the legal technicality of the words you have to use, so that they would be maintaining all the common areas, individual unit owners typically maintain their building inside and then maybe so many feet outside. So all the utilities, like the stormwater, privately maintained, they have to maintain it in accordance with the maintenance plan that we've, submitted with the stormwater. You have to do inspections and whatnot. It wouldn't be up to the town to do so. Town would have the right, if they ever thought there's a problem, to come in and, take care of it if somebody wasn't. But, and as far as the sewer, again, we'll talk to the district. If the sewer is gonna remain private, homeowners association is responsible for maintaining the sewer, and doing regular inspections and whatnot. If it's good, if we could get the town to take it over as public and we build it and have it inspected to a public, and we're used to doing it either way, but the standards that we're talking about is building it to town standards, having it inspected by the district. And so everyone knows it's built to the town standards. Same with the water. build it to Rangeley Water District specs, have it inspected, and have it hopefully petition them to have it accepted as a public water main, so they can maintain it, they can do the hydrant flushing, et cetera, et cetera. But we can have those discussions either way.
So the square footage on those units that are currently in the residential zoning, what size are those?
The single families are 1,200 square feet, and the duplexes are 700 on the first floor. And I think about 500, 600 on the second floor, I can't remember exactly.
Just to be clear, the 1,200 on the singles is over 2 floors, because we're trying to make these buildings modest, they're
Right,
modest.
trying to keep them-
So the footprint of the actual building is,
It's like, yeah, it's like 20.
20, yeah.
24 by 30.
Actually, you know what?
yeah, so
I think Ken gave
700
me,
something.
Ken gave me a scale, so I can
There
probably,
you go.
I can probably check it, and if I can use my glasses, I can that. I should know what these dimensions are on the plan conceptually, but I just. forgot. So,
What's your lot coverage on those units, you know,
Overall,
in the residential area?
it's on our table. If you give me a second, I'll come back and I'll look for it's on the table at the computer, I'm pretty sure. But these are, like, these here are roughly, I think 22 by, is that sound right, Matt, 38?
82,580, is that?
Overall.
So your village is 82 and your residential is 135.
On the overall. Let me- Hope I've got the right copy here, I don't have my full application, but on the lot coverage, I have one of my tables here that says that the village doesn't have, correct me if I'm wrong, the village doesn't have a requirement for lot coverage. Residential is 25%. And we have, when you take the actual impervious areas, we're at 6% for the overall parcel, according to my notes here, I can verify that. So well
For
under the.
dwelling.
Yes, I believe that's the way you define, is it lot coverage just the dwellings?
So you're saying you're at 6%?
6%, I'll double check that and make sure I'm referring to the right table and what's provided. You can see from the plan, it's, you aggregated all the buildings. Take up about that much of the site.
So you've talked a lot about, obviously, the subdivision.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we have anything on our codes that's even related to anything like that.
Yeah, so I mentioned in the letter that I wrote to y'all that Rangeley does not have a condominium style subdivision process. So in that case, we defer to the state and use their process.
So technically, you're asking to merge the village and the residential zones together to get your calculations. That's how you're getting your numbers.
Right.
It's fuzzy math to get an overall.
It's fuzzy math, but I guess, and that's why we're looking for some guidance on that, because if you take a lot and you divide it into 2 zones, you're hampering, that lot gets hampered. I mean, typically, if you try not to splice a lot in half, for obvious reasons, because you end up with these sort of situations where someone's lot is compromised by having the zoning line going through it. And so from that perspective, it seems to make sense to probably aggregate it. The other side of the coin is, it's, just from the fuzzy math part, if you take a lot, this is all wetlands in here, so the portion of the lot with a higher density allows you less units because of not the density, the number, but because of the physical parameters of the lot. Like say you had a funky shaped lot, all day long, you might have more area, but you might not be able to use the area because of the shape of it. That's kind of the case here, that you can, you can see a lot less units in the village district. If you add the 50-foot line, we might have 4, but proportionally, there's a lot more in the residential, even though the requirements are larger.
So what you haven't talked about is the impact on the neighborhood. So Cross Street, for example, doesn't have a sidewalk.
Correct. We talked, Brett brought up the idea of the sidewalk, and I think honestly, when we first met with Joe Roach way back, he talked about possibly having a sidewalk over your new one over here on the corner on Allen. And we haven't talked about the details of it. One of the things that I think was brought up was the idea of a sidewalk to really get the kids off the road and getting them going up Loon or sidewalks on Allen to the school. Well, what about the idea of providing a path, if the school's okay with it? Is providing a pathway so anyone on Cross Street could come here if they wanted to, or the people here, if they, with the kids, could take a path directly into the school property, and we build a path, a walkway to the back of the school there, probably like by the loop when you come in by the pond or somewhere in there. And so that it kills two birds with one stone. Putting a sidewalk on this street, not against it, but you have to study it. It certainly would be very complicated on this side with the swale, as you know, because then you've got the swale, you've got right-of-way limits. Now you put a sidewalk with this, you know, it gets complicated. But we have not studied it, but I think we would certainly be agreeable to putting a path up to the school so that people can walk right through the site and then go that way to the school. That helps.
On the parking lots, I don't know, Southern Maine may be different. I personally don't know anybody else that doesn't have 2 vehicles per family. So the width of the road concerns me because I think normally people are just gonna park wherever. That's kind of.
What was the purpose of lowering the width of the road and parking spots? Was it to get your lot coverage?
No, through the chair, it's not to get the lot coverage, but I'll tell you, I'll get into the phosphorus. We have, we'll talk about the phosphorus in minutes in the report, but the idea of the reduced road width, we're kind of fans of reduced roads. You gotta allow for plowing, gotta allow for emergency services, and not overbuilding roads, because it just keeps more of a village character. We're trying to create sort of that New England sort of a feel with a village character here when you're all done, that feels like a real neighborhood. And kind of blends in with the current neighborhood, even though they're larger lots. But the idea of this narrow road is, this would be a 2-way, and we want to make this a 1-way loop. Why have traffic going 2 ways on a small loop? It's like a kind of a cul-de-sac on steroids, but you're trying to create this nice village green area to be a common area. People come out, walk their dog, talk to your neighbors, it becomes a kind of a gathering spot. To have a 20-foot 1-way loop is excessive, even the ordinance requirements, your 20 foot is based on a 2-lane road. So the other thing too, when you get roads that are too wide, besides adding to plowing, adding to impervious and everything else, you get people not knowing what to do because it feels like a highway, and you've got, so 18, and the chief seemed to be, as I understand, is okay with it. That's the reason, is just because we're making it 1-way.
Who, just because you say it's 1-way, who's gonna be there to tell them it's 1-way? They can go any direction they want when they pull the road.
Sure, but we've signed, it's gonna be signed for 1-way, anywhere you could do that, I suppose. You have to allow people to do what they should do. We're not saying people can't do it. But if you have a 1-way street in town, somebody could go the wrong way, but how many people actually do it? But, it just makes sense, and it flows nicely when you come up here and go around the loop. It flows pretty nice when you do it that way. It feels right. And not having a 2-lane when you don't need to.
No,
That's the purpose.
I agree. So it's just an aesthetic thing. It's not anything to do with lot coverage.
No.
It's just an aesthetic thing.
Yeah. But I'll segue into that. So the phosphorus counts we did, our export is, I think, 0.47 pounds, because the lot's so small. You guys listening to the prior person, you know about this stuff. Because the lot's so small, our export on our PPV, that the states, the DEP form, we have, I think, 0.47 pounds that we're above. I think we're allowed we're at 0.83 and the allowance is 0.53, whatever the difference is, but we're above that. So we proposed, is the DEP allows us to do a compensation fee in lieu of, and we proposed it. I think that fee is 11,700 and something like that, using the DEP's formula to make up for that difference, because we can't do it. We can't meet that initial discharge that we pay a compensation fee. But the stormwater calcs do capture the stormwater. We do meet this DEP Chapter 500 requirements for capturing our treatment with these 2 stormwater basins. And what we did on those 2 as well is, if you oversize your basin in terms of the flooding standard above the treatment standard, if you oversize the basin, you can reduce from 95 to 90% what you have to treat for the site. So we meet that criteria. I think we're at 91% for impervious treatment and 80 on the, vegetated, the developed area. Whatever numbers. But we do meet the DEP requirements for that. And as far as impervious area, yes, we're trying to minimize it because we also are just under an acre total of impervious. So we don't have to go in for a full permit with the main DEP, just, permit by rule, which helps in terms of the permitting. So we're trying to keep impervious down just altogether, period. It's just. So.
What is the, do you know the square footage of the, what the residential section is in the residential? Actual square footage of that
Yes.
is?
I'm hoping I'm looking at the right table here. I'll have
It's
a-
20,000 with sewer.
No, I want to know the whole dimension of the whole piece of property.
Grade, so this is, 990, so I have, residential is, known as acres, 368,200, if that matches up with what's, I don't have my full report here, but I'm gonna say 368,200, bear with me for a second. And around 90,000 in the village. Yes. Hopefully that adds up to 5.38 acres. And we deducted in the residential, we deducted 34,000 square feet for roadways to get to our net density. We deducted 6,600 for this portion of roadway in the village to get to our density. That allows for a total of, again, 14 units or 14 buildings with 28 units, but we're proposing only 20 units, 12 units. That makes sense? Clear about that? Can we get the right table?
So you've done your homework, you made it work. Fuzzy math, good job. It's just, I honestly don't know. We're gonna have to adopt the state codes or?
For those codes that we already under the state codes, if we don't have a place in our chapter for it, we're already under state codes.
So then, say it's okay, then we look at impact on the neighborhood. Is it detrimental to the neighborhood, is it good for the neighborhood, is it? That's gonna have to be brought in a public hearing, right?
So let me go through the process. Let me read this verbatim. So the first step is approval of the preliminary plan and application, which is what he's doing now. Determination by the board that the preliminary plan and application are complete in no way commits or binds the board as to the adequacy of the plan to meet the criteria of Title 38 MRSA Section 4404 and the requirements of the chapter. If this is approved as a preliminary plan application, we immediately send notices to all abutters within 500 feet of the process. Then you have the right within 7 days to submit questions and if you want to see additional things
How
from
many days, Frank?
7 days. You can submit. Then they come back with a final plan. That final plan triggers a public hearing.
So tonight you're asking us to make the determination that the preliminary plan is complete.
The preliminary plan and application are approved, doesn't mean it's the final plan. It's not the final plan. It's a preliminary plan. It doesn't bind you to approval of a final plan. It just says there is enough here to then go ahead and notify the abutters. So the abutters know that there is a process in place. Then you have the ability to send in or to communicate questions or or things that you want to see done. Sewer department may say, I want to see this done. Water department may say, I want to see this done. They then take that information and they create a final plan. That final plan then triggers a public hearing. That's the process. And the final plan also triggers the findings of facts.
Lee, can I ask a couple questions? Yeah, as an abutter, kind of here to educate myself, and obviously as a prior town employee, I'm somewhat know of the project. And obviously, my wife and I will submit following plan through the procedures through, we'll follow, we'll probably submit questions further, but as you try to touch upon, Rick touched upon certain elements, and I had some questions in regard to that. So you like, I'll go with my first, try to go back through, we discussed this. So you mentioned the idea of a sidewalk or a path. If you go the route of the school, we had talked about a brief minute about wetlands. Again, as an abutter and a person that does frequent that area, whether it's designated or recognized as a wetland, that cedar portion above this lot is fairly wet.
Yeah,
So I think you're gonna interrupt quite a bit of material at that point. And then if said path or sidewalk is put in, I mean, is it illuminated? Or are you then meeting ADA requirements to get up to that path? That's just hypothetical, these are questions.
No, that's actually excellent questions, yeah.
So that's one element that I was just kind of curious on. And then we can go to, let's go to runoff, and you obviously have sedimentation ponds, but where does that water go and the overflow after that? Because I know for a fact from the town that the drainage on Cross Street was definitely not sufficient to handle what you're projecting. Because my yard year round, the ditch I have is constant water all year round. So I mean, now that you're opening up that much, I mean, it's a fairly open lot there, but it's, it's not maintained, but you obviously increase that 3 times, so you have quite a volume of, and I don't know how grade goes in that, but I mean, just runoff or snow or any of that stuff become pushed off on into not my property directly, but then there's an impact on my water, other butters. So point being, if you direct that water through basins down to Cross Street, there is no way the town's gonna handle that right now. Because you look at Main Street right now, what comes off of Cross Street, those things, you already have Main Street's already flooded over half the time on that sidewalk. There's no place for that water to go across Route 4 through Tenor Lake or Fontaine's property. So just some food for thought for you.
And that would be up to the public works to bring that.
Into light, but maybe it helps you in planning portions. And I can, you mentioned density already. One other question kind of is going together. And I'm not sure how you're looking at marketing this and the evaluation of or value of these units, but in my mind frame, if you project these places at $300,000 and we're in a late workforce housing, that's not realistic. I mean, especially from what I'm thinking is needed in Rangeley for the type of employers or employees, excuse me, that are needed. You're not even close to being able to afford a unit of that if you buy. And again, my opinion, and what I know of numbers. And then my second part is what stops any of these owners, unless you do like a covenant, deed or covenant or something like that, that stops it from going to STR route. Because now then I have this ridiculous amount of activity, whether it's snowmobiles, other dogs, whatever else that are just components of that STR route. So I guess that's another question. What limits that from happening? I know they're not either obviously single, there's one, if it's efficiency apartment or if it's a single family, but it's just, you still have that component in there that would be an influence and how that's utilized. I think that covers, for the timing, that covers my.
Right.
I'll say the rest.
And you'll have time.
Yeah. That's all right. No, that was hard in my head and I just really wanted to.
Out of respect, I can give you that time.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
If the chair would like, I'd be happy to respond to some of the questions. They're excellent questions. I mean,
Yeah, no, I would like to know, I mean, I think these are all questions that are gonna come
Yeah.
up later, but right now, what is I know the affordable housing, I think right now is considered at 280. You get $60,000 on top of each unit by providing them, right? Correct? I applied for that, but you guys took all the money, so just kidding. But, he's not wrong, you know, 280 is a big nut for a guy working up to the mountain and can't move the units, do they turn into rental units? And if they turn into rental units, do they turn into Section 8 rental units? Or do they turn into SDRs, which, you know, if you own them, they're yours, once we approve it. So does the HOA, do you have an HOA covenants yet? Or have you written anything for an HOA? Do you have a standard HOA?
I mean, we have standard ones certainly from other projects, but that would, what we'd ask is that's a condition of approval
Right.
for the project, that we submit full bylaws, all those kind of documents. I think as we talked about last time, until we get some kind of approval, we can't even move ahead with a serious application and crunching the numbers.
So my understanding tonight is that we just need to say that the preliminary plan and application is complete so that you can move forward. And then we still have time to
Yes,
make
it
conditions.
does not bind you.
Public hearing.
But even with the final approval,
Yeah.
there can be conditions on the plan,
Right.
because there's going to be a back and forth.
Yep.
Working with Joe, working with the select folks. I
The
mean,
public hearing is not triggered, is triggered when the final plan is prepared, right?
Okay, I'm not. Is this something we need in town? Yeah, we need it in town. Do we need it on Cross Street? I don't know, that's a perfect spot, but we'll let the townspeople decide that. So, yeah, I think tonight we'll make the determination that the preliminary plan and application is complete so that you can move forward. So can I get a motion? That the determination and preliminary plan and application for the workforce housing is complete. Wes? No? Jerry?
Sorry.
Would you like to make a motion that?
I'm still absorbing some of what we just spoke.
Yeah, I will make a motion that the application is complete.
Second.
So if this is gonna ask, the preliminary side of it, but for me personally, I think that the parking situation still, I just,
So that's our understanding
It'll
that
be
that's
addressed.
all conditions that we can change.
right, I just want to make sure.
Correct, there's nothing binding as of right now.
We have to put these stipulations, all this stuff in there now, that we want in there?
No, because you're gonna have you're gonna trigger the public hearing and come back. The people are gonna squabble.
Wait for that one.
I know.
All right, I'll second it then.
All in favor? And that's fine. plan continues to discuss. The next meeting is moved to January 10th. We don't have the holidays. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go
Chairman, I was just listening to that discussion, if it's all night long, if it's better to do this one separately on the 24th. And if we're gonna do a public hearing, I'll reach out to neighbors and do a neighborhood meeting ahead of that.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
So-
a long ways
We're
from
a
hearing
long
that,
ways from a
so
public hearing.
there's a long way
Oh,
from
okay.
a public hearing for this.
Great.
There are things that have to be done between now and then. There are things that you're gonna wanna have them look at and do.
I'm sure. that
They got
the-
crunch numbers. Big workshops.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, do we have, I'm gonna get a hold of Al Clinch, are we, in terms of the sewer sign off, we have a letter of serviceability,
We gave you a letter saying we can handle the amount
yeah, okay.
that you're gonna add, but we're gonna need detailed
We need the
plans.
technical,
And we've got a lot of other
Right.
things that we wanna look forward to, but
yeah, we'd like to sit
we
down and
can,
talk
we
about
planned on, Brett gave us
that. Okay,
3 bedrooms per unit, so we could over estimate the
Okay.
flow,
sure,
which I think we said in there was 42 bedrooms. That's how we do our numbers,
sure, yeah,
which
so,
is more than what you have.
okay, because we have, yeah, the plans, I mean, the plans we submitted have all the details up, but we're happy to get together, go over the plans with you, and obviously take any comments you have on the design, absolutely, yeah, in terms of, we'd like to get your comments and input on that, so we can, for final and everything, but we're open, absolutely open to working with you guys, yeah.
And we're open to all of the concerns and questions and things that feel too loosey-goosey right now. Never moving forward with this project if all of those aren't figured out. The problem is this application process of the state and any of the funding sources. It's hard to move forward with that unless we know we have. The first thing the bank asks for is what do you need financing for? I'm like, I don't really know yet, because we don't have a approved plan yet. So whatever things we need to do, because we're not here to screw things up. We're here and we're doing this project. Because when we came to town, we heard workforce housing is a huge need for us. Can you help? That's why we're here. Not trying to ask for favors or put someone over on someone. We could, we could just do 5 big vacation homes in there. We just want to.
So through the chair. one of
No,
the things you
and
can
Matt,
also
I don't disagree that it's a necessity in the town. Again, I said it before, I don't know that Cross Street's the perfect spot for it. But is it necessary? Do we look forward to having somebody like you do something? Yes, we do. Is it that on that location? I don't know yet.
Yeah, and I don't want to go back to it, but just having grown up in a town with density and all that kind of stuff, neighborhoods. It's great when people that work in a town can live in a single family home in the town and walk around, And one of the things that's bad about affordable housing, capital A affordable housing is, there's the project. We're going over there. And so one of the reasons why we chose this piece of property is, how do you make this for someone who maybe grew up in town and wants to move in town and put down roots? How do you integrate them in the neighborhood? That's what we're thinking. Not trying to add something that hurts the neighborhood.
So, Mr. Chairman, one last comment. One of the things you can request from Matt and Rick is to put together a covenant. So you can actually see what the restrictions are and what the, you talk about not wanting to have rental properties, not wanting to have certain things. Some of those duplexes are rental properties, but they're long-term rentals. So what's the lease gonna look like? Is it a year lease? Is it, what is it? So what's the commitment and how do we prevent that from happening? So you can ask them to draft that.
I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn at 7:30. I need a second. Everybody. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry about the disconnect. Really. I don't know if we've had one like that yet.